There's something in the air, and it feels like fear. There's something in the night, and it seems like terror. There's someone in your bed, and it looks like you.
Mommy?
Life will be simpler now. The only thing missing
Mommy?
will be you.
Mommy?
What's the matter, honey? What's the matter? There's Mommy. She's right there. What happened?
I'm seeing people at the infirmary exhibiting paranoia. People afraid to sleep.
Get in bed.
Afraid of family members.
Let it go!
People afraid of themselves.
We gotta go right now!
Come on, Marty, let's get out of here.
They're out there. They're everywhere.
It's not my dad!
We're gonna get out of here, Marty.
Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna run? Where are you gonna hide? Nowhere. Because there's no one like you left.
Body Snatchers. The invasion continues. They'd kill to be you.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Choose a side in the Clone Wars.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Clone Wars, where two similar pieces of media clash to be crowned champion. Two go in, and only one comes out. It is Alien Month once again, and I've invited two very interesting people, pod people, my two of my very favourite pod people in the world, to talk parasitic aliens. We've been talking about some body horror before the show started, and we're going to get into some more of it. And today we are comparing two very similar films, Body Snatchers from 1993 and The Puppet Masters. So let me introduce my guests. I have returning, she's not talking about dongs this time, she's talking about snatches. It's Ria Carrogan. She's back.
Hey! And we do see a snatch.
Oh, yes, we do. We certainly do. We do. In so many ways, in so many interpretations.
And also we talked Slither, didn't we? We talked Slither together, so...
I was going to say, yeah, it's not the first time we've talked about parasitic aliens and weird sex stuff. So yeah, this is on brand for us. This is on brand for us.
That's what Spider-Dan is renaming the show. Weird sex stuff with Spider-Dan.
Weird sex stuff with Spider-Dan. And of course, and you've heard him already, it's Tony Farina, and teaming up these two people for the very first time on a proper Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls podcast. Obviously, they've done podcasts before on many different channels, on many different topics. But this time, we're going to be talking about these two films. And Tony, in fact, has even gone so far and read both books that the films are based on. And I'm sure we'll hear the differences and his opinions on certain authors, I'm sure he'll get into. But welcome back to the show, Tony, again. It's great to have you, as always.
Hello, thank you. I've been practicing all day for this one because I've never been on this particular version of the Secret Boars, where the two come in and one goes out. I've never done this one. So I've been like, what are the categories? Looking in, like, am I going to screw it up? Am I going to say it wrong?
No.
Am I going to say, and And so I'm glad. And to be fair, Ria knows a lot about film, as we know. And Dan, you are an actor. So I will let you guys tell me that when I'm wrong, when you ask me about, some of the technical aspects of it. But I'm excited about this one, because you had a lot to choose from. With these two particular, idea for clone bores with this type of genre, you had a lot to choose from. So I appreciate what you picked.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed both of these films, actually. So it'll be interesting to see when we get to the comparison how that's going to play out. Because I feel the strength of one film is the weakness of the other, I think. But we'll see. We'll see if our opinions, if we conform to each other's opinions, or whether each of us will stand as an individual. We'll find out. Before we get started on either of them, would you, lovely people, like to hear some reasons for comparison that I've come up with, and then please add your own if you can think of any others? Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Both films based on serial stories compiled into novels and released within 2 to 3 years of each other. Both films were released within a year of each other. Both films feature parasitic aliens trying to infiltrate planet Earth by hijacking human bodies. Both films see pod-shaped aliens with tendrils used as booby traps and are shown to be being delivered across the USA. Both films feature children being used as weapons. Both films feature scenes where the aliens give themselves away. Both films see the army being turned. Both films see actors or characters fight and escape in helicopters. And both films feature actors that have starred in Platoon, including Forrest Whitaker, Keith David, and Dale Dye. And that is my list. What about you guys? Do you have any reasons for comparison yourself? Ria?
I think you've covered it all. What I just sort of love is obviously Puppet Masters has Tom Sutherland, is of course in the second adaptation of Body Snatchers, which 1978. And so I love that, he's got this whole, two films.
Subgenre.
He's got this whole canon for subgenre films of Body Snatchers, of alien stuff. And I sort of just like that sort of connection as well.
Yeah,
and Keith David, of course, another favourite film of yours, for another parasitic alien in The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that was what I was going to say. That is true. Is that I thought both films feature people who were in other parasitic alien films, and you named them. And the one thing I said, and not in such a great way, but in both films, the black guy dies.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
They definitely wanted to make sure they leaned into that horror trope all the way through.
Yeah.
They're like, maybe we'll save some of these other people, but we better make sure these two iconic, award-winning, brilliant actors, they do not make it to the final credits just because.
Yeah, I will argue as well that I think they both probably give the best performances in either film as well. I think they're the most interesting characters, and again, very little screen time, but really kind of hit home. And and I think they'll come very much into question when we do the comparison of the acting.
But they do something with their small roles as well, absolutely. And sort of are both pivotal in terms of, funny enough, making the white actors survive.
It's really it's a fascinating thing whether it was you always wonder about the intentionality of that, like when you're making, and both of these films have a lot to say, they're subversive, they're doing some things, they don't all succeed, but then it's like, so do you go into it saying like, let's lean into that and do the trope and acknowledge it's the trope, or is it just like, well, this character dies, we better get a black guy? Like I don't know.
Yeah, and I also think so Body Snatchers, I think, makes an effort, whether it's intentional or not, to show the diversity of the US Army. So we know that a lot of people of color end up being in the US Army for multiple reasons, and I think that's reflected in the cast. But whether that's intentional or not, and in Body Snatchers, obviously he is the highest ranking on base person of color that we see, and yet his demise is needed for the white characters to win. And in Puppet Masters, without him, the two white characters would be dead. 100% be dead.
It's true.
But I think Tony's right though. The ideas that they're exploring, and I think each one of these stories has been adapted before unofficially, as I was telling Tony earlier, by his old friend Roger Corman. So much so the writer Robert Heinlein sued Roger Corman because he was like, "You've got too many of my ideas in here." So yeah.
And Corman
I'm sure
was
we'll get
probably
into.
like, "I can't believe you saw this."
Yeah, probably. I think it's only an hour long as well.
I love that man so much. Oh.
And he's not even credited as the producer either. He's not under the credits. So yeah, so it's interesting. But yeah, I think they do have a lot to say about individualism and being an individual and being part of a group and conforming and and I think these films kind of represent, especially the Body Snatchers, I think each iteration represents something else, like the anxieties of the time and what people are going through and experiencing. Since you were talking so wonderfully about Body Snatchers, and you said that, I listened to you on, I think you were talking about The Thing with Scott Weatherly on 20th Century Geek, and you talked about Body Snatchers, and I think you said that this is your favourite version of that story. So would you like to kind of give us a very brief rundown of the plot and then go into it and go into your feelings on the film?
Oh my God,
I know it's tricky.
I'm going to do it.
Come on. I love it when you do it, though. I love it when you do it, no matter how it comes out. Come on.
So we're talking Body Snatchers 1993. It's my favourite. Is it the best out of the Body Snatchers films? No, but it's still my favourite for reasons. So this is a teen version. This is the reason it's my favourite. This is a teen version of Body Snatchers. So Marty, she's a teenager. Her dad works for an environmental agency. He's going around to military sites to test impact military people have on the environment and on the ecosystem. And he's there with his wife, Marty's half-sister, half-brother, and they move on to the base. And from the get-go, there's something off. Before they even get to the base, Marty encounters a black man in a bathroom stall who threatens her, but is also trying to warn her, save her. And I think that's interesting. That's something we should talk about. I feel like it's a very purposeful decision that he is a black character. And they get onto the base and weird things are happening. People seem weird. As the viewers, we're getting feeling a bit oh, everything's a bit strange. Something spooky's going on. And eventually we learn that people are they alien parasites? And they suck all their little tendrils, they suck out all your essence. What are they sucking? Nobody knows. Nobody cares about science in this film. It's fucking brilliant. Even her dad, who works for the Environment Agency, he's not a real scientist. I was collecting water. That's come on. Nobody's touched science that went anywhere near this film. Anyway, I can't remember what I was saying. So it sucks up all your essence and then creates a clone of you. And you're all like, oh, we are one. Yeah, where are you going to run? Where are you going to hide? And Marty is trying
and
to
then they sing.
Her brother.
And then it's a musical, just like that. I love that part. That's my favorite part. I missed that version. I really need that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Director's cut.
I pay to see that stage musical version.
I'm going to do it. Gonna do it.
Yeah, you can hire twins.
Music. You can
for
do
sure.
Music.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. Yeah,
love it.
Sold.
And of course, there is romance happening at the same time with Marty and some sexy army dude with his smoldering eyes. He can only do that one expression.
Yeah, famously one of the background vampires from the Lost Boys, making that same expression the whole time.
Yeah. He's hot, right? Go with it, fella. You got to
I can see
go
that.
for it.
Your whole face smolders. That's what you do.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is classic Ria. What happens in the story? Nobody knows. Basically, then they try to run away.
Again, this is Spider down in the weird sex stuff with sucking of tendrils and all that.
They try to
run
away.
What are they sucking? That was my favorite quote for this podcast. What are they sucking?
Marty kicks her half brother off a helicopter in my favorite scene. And
spoilers for Tonya Todd. Spoilers.
Oh, she doesn't listen to this show because she knows everything.
Yeah, of course she wouldn't.
There's no way Tanya would never listen to anything without pre-reading.
Thanks, Tony.
You
Thanks,
know what
Tony.
I mean. If she's not seen both of these movies, she's not listening. So it's not. We don't need Tanya Todd would not listen to this without having watched both movies first. So we don't have to worry about spoilers on this. She knows about the Secret Boars.
I mean, she is a patron, so
she knows.
So I'm getting her money. I'm getting her money either way.
Yes, I don't mean it in a meaning she doesn't listen, like she doesn't support. She wouldn't listen without already having watched.
How she wouldn't listen to this shit?
That's not. That's how it sounded, wasn't it? That is not what I meant.
I'm joking,
Okay,
Tony.
yes.
I completely understand what you meant. It was funny. It was funny the way you said. She doesn't listen to this
crap. I can't believe my mom. No, anyway.
What am I doing here? So yes,
I can't even remember what we were talking about. I just really enjoyed that.
So yeah, we were still very briefly going through the plot.
Briefly,
yeah.
In 20 years. She kicks a little brother off a helicopter. It's amazing. And then we get a return to one of the worst voiceovers in a film. The voiceover of this is so terrible. I love every single second of it. Explaining like who will believe us, and then showing her new military boyfriend blowing shit up. And have we won against the pod people? I don't know.
Very ominous ending.
So guys,
very ambiguous.
I feel like you really know what this film's about.
You don't. Tonya doesn't even need to watch it now. That was such a succinct, clear, concise description of Body Snatchers. Nobody needs to watch it.
Oh,
at all.
God! People get turned into pod people, and you see,
you know what you're getting.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
you're getting with pod. You know,
but it's got teenagers are protagonists. Like done.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Teenager.
Wonderful.
Because teenagers are dangerous.
Yes.
They like booze and sex.
Does this film sexualize teenagers?
Maybe just a lot. Well, that's in my notes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay, so after that, we'll come back to Ria. We'll let her have a minute because that was quite exhausting for her, I think. We'll go back to Tony Farina. Let's what are your thoughts on this version of Body Snatchers?
Well,
Tony? And again, you've read the book as well.
I have read the
recently.
book as well. Yes,
Jack
Finney book. And it's funny. It was just I didn't know it was a Jack Finney book. Like Jack Finney's just on my short list of people to read because he does lots of time travel stuff. And so this was just you sent me the note, kind of joking, like, "Hey, you're going to read the books too?" Because I'm a nerd, and you're like, "Oh, there's books." So of course, immediately that week I read them both. And yeah, so the book is quite good. I feel that the Sutherland version knows what it's doing in regard to the book, and this version, and from what I can tell, the Daniel Craig, Nicole Kidman version is like a remake of this movie, as opposed to trying to make the. So it's like you saw this movie and we're like, what if we remade this movie? Like, or maybe you should just stop. Maybe you should just come up with your own invasion ideas. I've not seen it, but I've heard it's terrible.
It's terrible. It is so bad. Like I spent money seeing it at the cinema. I was so disappointed because obviously I love all of these films apart from this one. It doesn't exist apart from not this one. Apart from the Daniel Craig one. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, the Daniel Craig one. So I did read it and I did like it. I think I like the idea of using the snatching as social commentary. And so you think about when the book was written, you think about when the first movie came out, when the next movie came out, when this movie came out, even when that one came out in 2011, like the idea, and we've talked about this when Scott and I covered the thing too. We did for his story time, we did the original story, Who Goes There, and then all three versions of the thing. Spoiler alert for that, the Carpenter one is the best. I know you guys are like, yes, what? What are you saying? The Carpenter one is the best.
You don't need to do spoiler alerts.
I know.
We know Tony doesn't listen.
Yeah, just the listeners fine. And also famously, I watched the two films for Scott and went. I sort of just looked at my phone.
Yeah,
not for the thing. The thing, obviously, I was like the millionth time I've watched it. It was glued to the screen. And I was like, this film's shit.
It was so bad. But what I think there's an amazing commentary to say about this. And I do think there is, I find it troubling. I don't find the kicking Andy out of the helicopter, like the killing of the little
Oh,
brother,
no.
troubling.
That's fine.
It's amazing.
My
Absolutely amazing.
problem was, and I understand why they did it, like they go out of their way to remind us that Gabrielle Anwar, who was 24 years old when she made this movie, and granted, she looks very young. She still to this day looks very young. Everything she's in, she played Queen Anne in the Three Musketeers, Disney Three Musketeers. She just looks young. That's just her jam. But they went out of their way to remind us that she's only 17, like out of their way. She's a minor. And just so then later, so if you didn't know how old she was and you're watching a movie, you think, I'm watching a movie. There's a 17-year-old in it. Wow. I was not expecting her to be naked later. That's problematic if you keep reminding me for the first 2/3 of your movie that she's a minor and then you're showing full frontal nudity. And I was like, wait, how old was she when she made this? Like, I didn't know at the time how old she was. She made it because I was like, she just kind of looked like that for 10 years of her career. All of that to say, and then Meg Tilly, who's also amazing in this, and who I think Meg Tilly, she stopped acting when she became a parent. Her sister famously went on to be amazing. In everything that she's in, and she knows exactly what she is. But she's great. There's the full frontal nudity of her in this too, and there's this idea of the sex. The reason I'm bringing this up and spending so much time talking about this is that that's the takeover. To me, that's the commentary that they're making here. Is that in this particular version, it's this like women being able to have like control over their own bodies and like be sexual beings, and the only way they can be is if they're possessed by some alien. And so I think that is what this movie is about, on top of it all, is that it's like these women's bodies are the weapon, and whether that director Abel Ferrara knew what he was doing or whether that was accidental, but Ria's nodding along. So you agree it's about like the power of women's bodies?
Yeah, it's absolutely about the power of women's bodies, women being more in the workplace, having their own lives, doing their own things, their own sexuality. It's the fear of young women knowing what they want and what they want to do, and not just doing what their fathers want to do. There's, for me, it works that she has a beautiful, wicked stepmother. It's that fairy tale element. That's what for me, they're doing the Disney fairy tale as Body Snatchers. The wicked, beautiful stepmother, she's taken over and she wants to get rid of the beautiful stepdaughter.
One of the first lines is, how would you feel if a woman replaced your mom? So they're clearly like playing with that. I really love the family dynamic in this as well. Like, it was really believable and like natural, and it felt like a real family to me. And I thought they spent a lot of time on that and building that and the relationships and the connection. There's always there's the theme of kind of ominous dread that, something's not quite right. Not necessarily with the family, but there is some dysfunction there. But I just really love that they spent the time and took the time to kind of, again, they could rush through it or they could get to the alien stuff first, but they really were like really methodical in getting you to believe in these characters before all the kind of fantasy sci-fi elements come in.
About to say, like, even the relationship with her brother, with Andy, he's old enough that we know that the relationship between her father and her stepmother is long established, because he's not like a baby, although I don't actually know what age he is. We sort of get an insight into that long-term family dynamic, and that Marty's basically been tolerating a very beautiful younger woman as her stepmother for a long time, and she is clearly younger than Marty's dad, and that's very purposeful, and it's already trying to tell us something with that. And Gabrielle was so beautiful, and clearly the reason I was obsessed with this film when I was younger, because she's like ridiculous, and so we get these two beautiful women and that dynamic as well. And if that's not saying anything about the power of female sexuality, then like, what is?
And you get that you've got the punk daughter of I love Arlie Ermy, in absolutely anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, his punk daughter. And she was in one of the best horror sequels, which I know Scott's a fan of, Child's Play 2. And then Meg Tilly was also in a classic horror sequel, Psycho 2, that I know Tony likes, and I'm a big fan of. So yeah, it's strange to have them both in this film, but then and her kind of punk aesthetic and her like kind of flouting the rules and not, she's the general's daughter, and the dad's like, you're the general's daughter? You? Like, why you dressed like this? Who are you? You're driving around, being reckless, going to bars, getting drunk. Who are you?
And what's the first thing she does? So she saves Marty from intimidating soldiers, takes her to her house, and introduces her to her alcoholic mother, who she knows is going to be passed out on the sofa. And that's what we see of her mother. And obviously that's like to do some background building. But again, that, for me, I'm watching that and I'm seeing the alcoholic mother, and I'm seeing the commentary of this woman has no purpose because her husband is the head of this military base. So all she does is drink because she is unhappy. I know there's like this whole cult of military wives thing, where you have to be like, yeah, I love the military, I love everything that's going on with it. And she, for me, I'm watching it and like in this short scene, I'm like, she doesn't conform to that. She doesn't want to be this pro-military wife thing. She's bored of her life. We think this was in 1993. She's got a teenage daughter. Like, what is it she wants to be doing with her life? Is it this? No. So she's depressed, got mental health issues as an alcoholic. And, so I'm watching this very short scene and immediately seeing this woman's been put in a box that she doesn't want to be in. And so what is her daughter doing? Making sure she's as out of that box as possible.
Right. And she's reacting to it too. And I think again, like you said, it's really tight storytelling with Jen's character, Christina Lisa's character. And again, there's the other connection because, of course, Meg Tilly is also, she becomes integral to the Chucky series as well, right? And then they all end up in one later. Meg Tilly shows up in one later. So they're all together back in one of those. But I do think what Christina Lise brings there, and it is, this is 93, right? And so that means they started filming it in 92. And in 91, the first Iraq war happened. So the fact that you're choosing to do the body snatcher story with women, with military, you didn't have to do another military version. You didn't have to, this is the first kind of take on the military version of it. You didn't have to do that, but they chose to, because again, you talked about the rah-rah, go gung-ho thing. Well, that was what was happening. Like, if you didn't, this was the time when in America in particular, you started saying, well, if you don't support, if you are against the war, you don't support the troops. And you're like, actually, I support the troops. This war is dumb. Those are different things. In fact, I feel like I support the troops so much that I don't want them to do a dumb war. And so there's an interesting conversation to be had just about that in general. And then you get these like hardcore punk, like, Jen being this hardcore punk rocker. And like you just said, Ria, the mom being on the other side of that, because obviously he's a general. Arlie Emery is a general Platt. So he's like, that's not something you just woke up and did. So this is her whole life. She knows, this is, and Jen's been in this her whole life. And so you have to make a choice, right? About what you're going to do and the commentary that you're going to make. And because they don't mention the Iraq war here, but it's clearly happening. It's clearly happened.
They do mention Kuwait, like the guy's been to Kuwait,
right.
and he's
killed
somebody.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's not.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Tony, as well, because I think they're clearly talking about environmentalism as well, because he's from the EPA.
Right.
So there was clearly something that was on again, like the late 80s, you get a lot of that kind of Swamp Thing-esque kind of, they're talking about environmentalism. I think the show was out by this point that was quite heavily into the environmental messages, and there was a cartoon and some other stuff as well. But, not just Swamp Thing related environmentalism, I'm sure, but those are the ones I've seen. So
sure.
So there is something. So they are playing and asking those questions. And do we trust what the military is doing, and who is it being run by, and who are the pod people that are in charge of this or investigating this, or what are they allowing?
Well,
so
and you are the pod
critical
person. You talked about the rah-rah stuff, Ria. The thing that gets me here is the rah-rah-ness of it. And again, as the person, so again, and I know this is 93, but I was not. I'm not pro-war. I know you guys are shocked to hear that, but so for me, I know you people couldn't see their faces, but shock. And so as a person who was who had friends who had made the choice, like, people in high school who had made the choice, like, you're a poor kid going it, like you mentioned, Ria, going into the military when you're and coming from a low income family. The military is a safe place, air quote, safe place for you. It's not safe. It's dangerous. They're teaching you to be a weapon at 18 years old. But like, you're going to get a paycheck. You're going to get this. They're like, see the world and do all this stuff. And those were like the ads. Then when, when the first Iraq war happens, and people I know who had already signed up, they didn't sign up thinking like, oh, we're going to go, have to fight this war. And then, later, again, after 9/11, we have this other invasion. We do the same thing. Bush Jr. does the same thing. And in both cases, I'm a person saying like, oh, this is bad. Like, these poor people, literally poor people whose bodies you're using as fodder. And then, so that is what's happening here. And then the people who don't want to get behind it, you're the pariah. Like me saying I'm anti-war, I was the pariah. If you didn't have, after 9/11 in America, if you didn't have a flag on your door, or a flag in your yard, or a ribbon hanging somewhere, and during this one, this first one, if you didn't have a yellow ribbon on your tree, you were somehow a traitor. And you're like, well, that is just bullshit. Like, I can still say I support, like, my cousin was there. I was hoping he would come home. I supported him, but I don't support the cause. I don't need to put a fucking ribbon up. And George Carlin, of all people, greatest, comedian ever, said, I'm not going to put up your yellow ribbon because I don't believe in symbols, because I leave the symbols for the symbol-minded. And that was the moment, Alex, I remember when he said that, I laughed and laughed and laughed. And that was the day my father quit liking George Carlin. Like, we had a big falling out over that because I thought it was hysterical. He was super offended by that. And that was it. He was done. He never watched George Carlin again after that. It's like, I knew who George Carlin was because I used to listen to their old like records. Like, they had George Carlin records, and I would listen to them when I was far too young to listen to the 7 Dirtiest Words on television. But I was kind of brought up on that stuff, like this subversive message. This movie is that. It's like the fact that you're choosing to make it military, you're choosing to set it here, you're choosing to have the heroes be young women. There's so much happening in a movie that also kind of objectively is bad in some way. Like, wow.
Yeah. But I think Abel Ferrara does have some kind of, like, there's a film I'd like to look at maybe at some point. It's a tricky film because it's a rape revenge film. But from what I've not seen it, but from what I've heard, he because those type of films were quite popular at that period. Sure. when he made his. But what he did was he kind of, the way he shot it brings you into the perspective of the woman and the trauma that's been dealt. And it's almost like you, the audience, are being challenged and being criticized for watching this and for going, you're taking pleasure in this pain, this woman's pain. This is not supposed to be a fun, frivolity or titillating in any way. This is a horrible act. And she then goes out and takes revenge with. And I've not seen it. I would like to look at it. I need to watch it when I'm in the right headspace. But it is. I've heard that's the kind of thing he was looking at. He's done films like Bad Lieutenant, again, very kind of a lot of stuff going on there. I know, like, I think me and Tonya and Ria said we'd do The Addiction at some point as well, which is another one of his films. So I think this is on his kind of gritty, grimy, kind of street level, those sensibilities, but he's bringing them to this kind of popcorn movie, an alien invasion thing. Like, and this was written originally by Stuart Gordon, who wrote and directed Reanimator, did From Beyond. So very into kind of weird gothic, kind of again weird sex stuff with Dan. That's that's what he does best. And again, it's what I love. Like, bring it on, Cronenbergian sex stuff. Bring it on. Again, that's got a lot of he loves parasites as well. That's his bag. So it was written originally for him, and he was originally going to direct but for whatever reason didn't. So understandably, but also what's really telling is it's also written by Larry Cohen, and another one of my favorite filmmakers. And he wrote The Stuff, which is consumerism allegory. And again, some guy puts his finger in some white goo on the floor and goes, "Oh, this is delicious. We should market this." And I think it's one of the most brilliant satires of consumerism, but also kind of, taking part of that blob DNA and, using that. And again, they become obsessed and addicted, and they are controlled by this thing from the inside. So it makes sense that he's kind of in the scripting as well. So I think maybe those elements, those people involved, I think makes this as good as it can be, and fires on all cylinders. We were going to talk about Forrest Whitaker. He plays the medical officer, and he goes over to the EPA dad and is like, what could these chemicals do if they've been released, or if they've been getting around the base? Could they have any psychological effects? And like, I've never seen someone like more convincingly portray anxiety in my life. Like, he's like smoking and shaking and like, yeah, but tell me, could it do this? Could it mean, people are seeing things and doing things, and they're acting weird, they can't sleep, and they're afraid of things, and they're afraid of the family, afraid of themselves, and I think and again, he's only in 2 scenes, but absolutely steals the show for me, and Meg Tilly as well, for the amount of time that she has on screen. I think both of those actors, for me, are like, you can't tear your eyes away from either of them.
And I know because Ria booed me, so I will say this, and then I'll have Ria then boo me with her words, with more words. The performances of those of Meg, Gabrielle Anwar, and Forrest Whitaker are so much better than everybody else. So, and even
miles ahead.
And other people are doing, and Christina Leese, I don't think she's a bad actor. We've already talked about Billy Worth's talent. The guy who's playing the dad is fine. The kid is not very good. So but it's just because they're so much better, in my opinion. Miles. Even, it makes the movie rocky, because you're like, it's not a 3-person 1-act play, or if you want to put those 3 people on screen together on a stage, I'm watching that. I can't take that. Is great. Could they play all the characters? Maybe that would work. So for me, what detracts from the movie is I see all this messaging here, but it kind of falls apart for me. And again, keep in mind, this is the first time I'm seeing the movie too, Ria. So like,
sure,
you boo.
Is it? I didn't realize it was the first time you've seen it. Wow.
First time I've seen it as well.
Ria can school us and go get in her time machine and go back and slap us for not watching it sooner.
But we're open-minded, we're ready, we're taking it in. But so clearly Tony's being a bit critical of this, Ria, this film in particular. Why don't you take this teacher to school?
Look, is this film good? Yes. Is it great? No. And that's fine. But the reason I like it, I watched this when I was a teenager. I consumed horror films, horror books, horror TV shows, horror comics from far too of a young age. And, most of them were exploiting women or about men saving the day and all of that sort of stuff, And who did I have at a younger age? I had Dana Scully from X-Files, and I had Marty from Body Snatchers. And I love that they have taken this story and made a teenager the protagonist. I actually think that's pretty brave. The 1978 film is amazing. It is a masterpiece. It really is fantastic. Everything about it is fantastic. It blows the original out of the water. And I am still a fan of the original. I own all 3 on DVD. I used to own some of them on VHS. That's how much I enjoy these films. But the fact that they are able to flip this, make it about a teenager, see it through her eyes, see it as, I'm watching it as a young girl, seeing that although she does get saved by the guy, she's having to make a lot of decisions by herself. She knows something is wrong. She has the intelligence to understand when her dad is a pod person, and she takes on a role that is not a mothering role. She is not a mother to her younger brother. When his mum, her stepmom, becomes a pod person, she doesn't immediately step in and take the mother role. She is still a teenager. She's still the protagonist. She's not having to step back and fulfill that. Spoilers for The Faculty, which is a version of this film and of
Don't worry,
trippids
Tonya
and
doesn't listen.
everything. Yeah, and and I love the faculty. I think the faculty is like height of teen horror. I think that film is basically perfect. One of Joss Hartnett's finest roles. Although, obviously, he was not who I fancied in that film. Who do you think I fancied in that film?
Oh, God. The T-1000.
Salma Hayek.
John Stewart, you fancied. I broke Ria.
Oh, no.
Broken her.
Are we wrong on all?
What beautiful... What beautiful... Elijah Wood. Always Elijah Wood.
Oh, yeah. That was the obvious one, but I don't think it's funny.
Always Elijah Wood.
I'm sorry, but Salma Hayek is in a movie.
No,
yeah, true.
Elijah Wood, like the most
Famke
adorable. He is like such an adorable human being. Yes, and obviously I do fancy women, and in this, clearly it was Selma Hayek. But if clearly,
right, because yeah.
Anyway,
sure.
I totally forgot to talk about because I was talking about who I fancy now and objectifying both men and women. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
But I can't remember what I was saying. But also, just like
you were talking about
the female performances are absolutely amazing. Meg Tilly is absolutely outstanding in this film, and this film would not be as creepy. It wouldn't get under your skin as much if it wasn't for her. And Dan sent me this amazing video, which I watched today, which is that the where you're going to run, where you're going to hide. She basically wrote that. So she wrote that, and the way she says it, it sticks with you. It's great. Her delivery is just like, it's unbelievable. And I do agree that like those three performances blow everything out of the water. But it was like, and I talk about this all the time, when we had on Disney discussions and we were talking with Mike and Megan about Beauty and the Beast, and they were like, we don't get it. Why was this such a big thing? And it was like, we had never had a female Disney princess like Belle. It had never happened. Unless you existed at the time, you do not understand how exciting it was. She was smart and she liked books and she had brown hair, right? And she didn't want to marry Gaston, right? And like all of our tiny little minds were blown. And that's how I felt watching this and Gabrielle Anwar in this film. My tiny little mind was like, this is what girls can do in horror films.
Because she wasn't the final girl, she's the first girl.
Exactly. Lovely, beautiful, Tony. Thank you.
That's what it is. And she is really great. And I think Gabrielle Anwar is always great. I've never seen her be bad in anything. And I think Meg Tilly, when she quit acting for all those years, you missed her. Like the world was, I mean, her children were probably like, thanks, Mom. But like, good on her for, being working her ass off long enough to be well enough off that she could just be a stay-at-home parent for all those years, and that's amazing.
She's a children's author now, so,
exactly.
So I'm sure you can.
But it's like she's so good, and you forget because it's been a long time since I've seen her in anything, right? And so it's like, oh my God, fucking Meg Tilly was so great. She was so good that her sister got her job, And I love Jennifer Tilly. Don't not get me wrong. Like Bound, I saw Bound in the theater. And I was like, wow, she's something. And she knew it. She talked about somebody who knows what she's doing on screen. Jennifer Tilly is always in on the joke. She's not as good of an actor as Meg Tilly because she knows what she knows. She's sort of the punchline and the writer of the joke in that way. So I agree. Everything you said is totally true. I hear everything you're saying, and I appreciate that. Like that's the joy of having the conversations about art. Because again, for me, first time seeing it as a 51-year-old man in 2024, I'm like, why did we have to go out of our way to remind us how young Gabrielle Anwar was in this movie? And it was like,
I mean, I rewatching it, I forgot. So I remembered Meg Tilly being full frontal naked.
Yeah.
I remembered it, and just on Meg Tilly as well. She's so extraordinary looking. Doesn't she have the most wonderful face? That to cast her for this role, even if her acting was atrocious, which it is not. She is fantastic. Her face carries like being what basically feels like the lead pod person, just so perfect. But I'd forgotten. So when I was watching it, I'd forgotten about that Gabrielle. We see her boobs, and I was like, "Oh no.
It took all the work. To me, it took a lot of the work that they did, and was like, hey, we could get her to get her top off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that
and it works for me with with Meg Tilly. I mean, I'm sure it was
100%.
to see her naked, but it works because it's the way she comes out of those shadows and the fact that she's turned into a pod
the way
person,
she walks,
the way she walks, and she has no shame about her body. Like it's just, this is literally a vessel for the pod person, right? But and that's really powerful. As much as I'm like, oh, we don't see anything, like, so that's annoying. But like it's incredibly powerful. Well, we need parity.
Release the dongs.
Yeah, release the dongs. Yeah, it's really powerful when you see her like that. And so I'm not annoyed at it. But when you see Gabrielle Anwar, I'm like, it just didn't need to be cut. Like the camera just needed to be a bit closer. We could have, I mean, to be fair, who she's acting against, like, maybe wouldn't get that he would be lusting after her body, bless him. But like, it just needed to, the camera just needs to be a bit closer. We don't need to see her tits.
Yeah, I like they do it during the bathtub scene where the pod person. I've no idea why they put the pod person above the bathtub so it crashes through. I was like, it's not a very subtle way of doing it.
No.
But you see in the struggle, you do see her breasts. And then I don't know. Do they kind of get away with it because it's not her, it's a pod person that has grown literally within seconds? Do they kind of get away with it?
I think that's what they're going for, but I don't think it works because we still know it's the actress. And like,
yeah, it's still the actress.
And who they're saying the actress is.
And they're copying a 17-year-old.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
But
24.
Yeah,
24.
no, it's fine. It's not like what's that one? What's the canon movie where they had a 14-year-old naked on?
Oh, I don't
from
know.
the 70s. Yeah, she didn't even know that they were actually filming. Right. It was like one of those weird, because it was like a French film, so they could get away with it. Like, whoa!
Wasn't it even like Brooke Shields? Didn't that happen to Brooke Shields?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And Bo Derek,
Blue Lagoon or something.
Bo Derek is who I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Yeah. It was Bo Derek. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the canon movie. That was the one.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay.
And it was her husband who was the director, right? Her future husband, Bo Derek. John Derek.
Okay. That's
all
weird.
gross.
Bit weird.
Yeah.
Oh, don't read about their relationship. It's really upsetting.
Oh, I don't want to.
It's really upsetting.
You shouldn't.
But also, for me, it's... So I do get why they do, because earlier we see that Marty is not sexual. She's cute and witty and charismatic when she meets...
non-sexualized.
Yeah, but when she meets generic army fella with the smouldering face. I hope you've noticed what I'm doing by pointing out. I'm not doing it, but I'm not using his name, as we would not talk about female fodder in horror films. And
generic guy.
I mean, and he is called Tim, so generic army dude, and and they've got chemistry as much as you can, bless him. But she's clearly not like sexually experienced. We don't see her being all like sexy and seductive and sliding up. And I love that at the beginning of the film. So I get why they're then trying to make her sexy.
It's not her. It's not her. It's clearly not her.
When she's a pod person, but you don't need to see her tits.
Right. I get what you're exactly. I get what you're saying, Ria, because the whole thing later, when you see that Mrs. Platt's drinking water instead of vodka. So like, that's the thing. It's like, what's the opposite of what you are? Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
We need something
sultry thing. But again, could have done. And again, it's she obviously, whether she was okay with it or not, or it's like, hey, you want to be the lead in the movie, you got to take your shirt off for a couple of times. She's like, I guess that's. I read Betty Gilpin's book, and there's a lot where she's like, yep, this is what I got to do to get this job. I'm going to do it. That's a great book. And it really makes me look back at, she's amazing too, by the way, and everything she's in, but it makes me look back on a lot of movies with like different eyes, having read Betty Gilpin's book. You're like, oh, fuck, what was in your contract? Right? Because Billy Wirth, it's not like there's no reason for him, like, if you're going to have that scene, have it. Release the dong, Billy. Go, generic army guy dong.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason not to do it other than it's 1993 and that's not what we do.
On that note, Tony, I think we need to move on to our second film before we run out of time.
Well, the second movie, by the way, the book, the Heinlein book, full of dongs, Ria. Yep. It is all dongs all the time. That whole book is all dongs.
The writer of Starship Troopers
loves to release dongs.
So I know we've got to move on, but episode 3 of House the Dragon, we get full frontal male
Spoilers.
of season 2, so 3 of Hamstone. And I
get some Doctor
audibly,
Who.
I
Is that what you're saying?
was watching it. No, it's not. It's not. Not Smith. But I audibly, well, not audibly, you can't see because this is not visual, but I went, yes, this
nice
when I saw
Yes,
and not like
I'll represent the
curving,
penis
but
I'm
just
seeing
like
with my arm.
penis. Well, because I did a rewatch of Game of Thrones, and I was like, oh, there's too much female nudity, there's too much like women getting assaulted and like absolutely horrendous, that when House of the Dragon started, I was a bit like, oh, is it going to be the same? And it has not done that. It's really moved away from those parts of Game of Thrones, which makes it, in my eyes, like a way better TV show. To then see just a male actor with his penis out, I was like, yes, on board.
Done.
Anyway, sorry, tangent.
Well, talking about puppetry of the penis, Tony, why don't you give us a plot synopsis for The Puppet Masturbator?
The Puppet Masturbator. So, based on a Robert Heinlein movie, Robert Heinlein, fascist, kind of a dick, sexist prick face. And I always love when people make his movies and then punch him right in the balls. And this is one of them.
I did not make Tony read the book. He did it.
I did it on my own accord. Every time I'm like, I should read more Heinlein. And then I'm always pissed at myself when I do. This was another one of those times. But I love when people get the material and they're like, we'll pay you for this movie. And he's like, cool. And then they're like, punch, right in the nuts, Heinlein, right in the nuts. And this is one of those. So a flying saucer lands in Iowa. And it turns out that there's aliens in the flying saucer, as there are. And they dispatch a crew of CIA representatives led by the old man, played by Donald Sutherland, who, rest in peace, Donald Sutherland, we just lost you.
Yes. Unfortunately, another victim of the zeitgeist curse, unfortunately. It always happens when I announce something, I'm going to do this, and then, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, every time. It's either good news or very bad news every time. I wish I could control it.
Yeah.
I wish I knew the lottery numbers, but I don't.
Very sad news, but he is definitely on his game in this one. So anyway, so Donald Sutherland, he runs this special division, and he's got a smart, hot, sexy lady scientist played by Julie Warner, and his son, his handsome, kind of dumb, generic military guy son, played by Eric Tall, who go to investigate stuff, and they have a weird flirty relationship, even though they're pretending to be siblings. That is straight from the book, and they're like, well, let's keep this in there. Like, no. Yes, it's so
weird.
And it never ends. It is relentless in the book. And so more on that to come. Anyway, so they find out the aliens are there, and they kind of they can't figure out how they kind of jump from body to body. It's much more of it feels like a communicable disease, which I found really interesting. I had thoughts on that, what about that version of it. Anyway, and then so wackiness ensues. They fight stuff. And then they kill Keith David, and Yaphet Kotto's in it. Hooray! Nice to see him. Alien
again.
Alien
another actor used to fighting parasitic aliens as well.
100%. It was great to see him too. That was another point of comparison. But anyway, so that really is it. It is really a small-ish story on a grand scale, because it's like focuses on these small groups of people trying to figure it out. It is a mystery. There is more science in this, and there's actually a little bit of psychology. There's a lot to say about addiction in here, which I found really interesting. And in the book, I just want to tell you guys right now. So in the book version, the way that they make everybody has to walk around naked. All the dongs are out, all the parts are out, because that's how you know if you've been attacked. Because if you're naked, you can't see. You would have the thing on your back, the slug. You'd have the slug. Yeah. So the whole book, everybody's naked, and so the main guy, the old man's son, who's hot for the sexy scientist, he ogles her the whole time.
Oh dear.
It is brutal. It is relentless. And I'm like, God damn it, Heinlein, stop it. You sort of have a good idea in here. Can you just stop?
I didn't realize how problematic these films would be that we spend most of the time talking about it.
Unreal. Anyway, so that is how this went along. And then you discover like there's ways to fight it off. So this is, to me, a commentary on addiction and or communicable disease. So depending on how you want to squint your eyes and look at it, it could go either way. But that's the brief synopsis. There's also some bad acting.
Very good.
You talk about children as a weapon. Once again, bad acting from children. And I don't want to shit on children actors, but there are good children actors. Can we get them in your movie, please?
Yeah, where are they? Let's hunt them down.
Hunt them down. Put them in your film.
Get them.
Yeah.
Get them. Are you good? Are you good?
Yeah.
Right, you're coming with me. This has a breakneck pace. Like,
love it.
Like within seconds, we see the landing of the UFO. If it is a UFO or whatever it is, we see it. And then kids go there. Someone else says, "Oh, did you see that thing?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's this way." And then knock him out. So they've been infected or whatever you want to call it, possessed by the aliens, puppeteered.
Puppeteered. I love that.
Yeah,
yes.
Puppeteered. And then literally, not like hours, not even a day, not even 24 hours, they have got like the top level kind of special people there going to see it, and they're like, it's definitely an alien. And what I love about it is that in other films they'd be pandering around and being like, I don't think it's an alien. What's wrong with people? What's going on? I don't believe in aliens. That's kooky. That's so weird. They just go, no, it's definitely an alien. We've got to stop it. It's infected these people. Let's get fucking going. Get to the president, call him. Let's fucking sort this out. And I absolutely have to respect that. You know, no matter what the quality of the film, they fucking crack on with it, and I'm on board. And then they're doing all the character moments and beats and stuff. We get what we basically need to know about these characters, and then we're off to the races. It doesn't, and it unlike Body Snatchers, which is very much like, have they been turned? Do you know if they've been turned? Are they pretending to be turned? This is like, we really don't care if you question whether they've not been turned. We're basically just going to tell you because we need it to get to the next action sequence as quickly as possible. And yeah, I have to respect that. So and Ria was the first one to watch it, and that was the first comment she made. So Ria, what did you think of The Puppet Master?
I love it so much. I love it. Is it a good film? I mean, questionable. But
we'll get to it.
Is it hilarious? Does it mean to be hilarious? Who knows? It is, though. I laughed a lot watching it. And just, like, literally from the moment. So I started watching it by putting my child to bed, because if I have my laptop, she thinks I'm working. So watching it with headphones. And
this is very serious work, Ria.
Basis.
Very serious.
This is working. And then she comes along and I have to be like, oh, close the laptop. Oh, my work's boring. You can't see it. Anyway, not got time to hear about my poor parenting techniques. And I was like, what is happening? This is amazing. It is like literally just not stopping. It's just going. Is there a plot? No. Does Mary randomly get her boobs out, unbutton her blouse to see if people are infected? Yes. Generic military guy. Can I remember his face? No. But do I enjoy how he's not infected? He's infected. He's not infected, but he can hear them all. What's happening? I don't know. It's all going too fast. Do I enjoy Donald Sutherland hamming it up at every single moment that he's on the screen?
Glorious.
Yes. Do I enjoy what happens at the end? I rewatched the end today to try and remember. And I'm like, he shoots him and he's like, I'm glad you shot me. But then all of a sudden it's like, now go and have sex. Because I was like, is that what happened at the end? I was thinking about it, and I was looking at my notes, which I'm not looking at now, of course, classic Ria. And I was like, I'm sure at the end, like, Donald Sutherland's basically to his son, like, go and get some. And so I just quickly went on YouTube and watched, like, the last 5 minutes. It's like, it's like, that's all happened in, like, 2 days. It's like, what is the span of this? It, like, literally happens in, like, 48 hours, and then Donald Sutherland's like, go on. Go and get your dick wet. I was like, what's happening? I love it. Fully on board. 100% watch this film again. Loved it. It's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. What's with the shootout in, like, the weird alien goo that then gets crystallized? Like, the whole shootout. I was like, what is happening? I can't tell what is happening. And I loved it.
Those guns are ridiculous as well. Those guns have got the biggest sight or scope on them I've ever seen. I was like, how can you pick those guns up? They're too massive. You need like its own like gravity field to pick them up. You know, that's just fucking.
The shootout in Alien Town was just to kill off Keith David. So it's like
it's
every
so
like,
random.
and the thing is that makes it even worse about the killing off of Keith David, who is a king. it is oddly juxtaposed with the fact that you shoot Donald. I'm like, oh, okay, they're also going to kill Donald Sutherland's character, and they're going to kill the old man in the film version. Okay, cool. Nope. Then that means you didn't need to kill Keith David. Like, you didn't need to kill him. Like, if you can shoot him and get the parasite off because of the dying body or whatever, and then save him with the old man who's called the old man who's got a cane, as opposed to like the young man who's a badass who died to save you all. Like, because the thing is he gets when Alex, Keith David's character, Alex, he gets infected, he gets like overwhelmed, and they get away.
Yeah.
Like you said off the top, it's like his only excuse is to make sure the generic white people live, and so they live. But then he gets to pop back up. They're like, surprise, bitches, Keith David's back. They're like, oh, good, you're going to save him. You subverted the kill the black guy. Oh, no, we're just going to kill him again. It was, and then what made it worse is at the end.
Bait and switch.
Right, because at the end, then they don't kill Donald Sutherland, which I thought they were going to do, but no, it was everything that Ria just said. So it is bananas.
And he has my absolute favorite bit, which is when generic white military dude, Donald Sutherland's son, goes, I'm going to go in and rescue Mary. Yeah. And Alex is like, well, how will I know if you come out, if you're you or not? And he's like, you'll know. And he has this look on his face like, fucking hell. Yeah. And I was like, absolutely my favorite bit. Like, he's like, oh, this dude's so dumb. How am I going to know this? Like, I can tell, like, in a sense, like, you're so fucking dumb. I've been sent on this mission with you. You're so dumb. And that's like my favourite bit. I want that still on it framed of just his face.
Keith David being awesome.
David's face being like, fucking hell, stupid.
It's that moment in Quick and the Dead when they say, how do you spell it? And he says correctly. Click.
Yeah.
It's that look. Yeah.
That's a film we should do.
I love that film so much.
I'll put it on the list. I'll put it on the list.
But yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. This movie did it definitely makes fun of Heinlein, the original source material, which I think everybody likes to do now. Goyer shows up, everybody's favorite. Get Dave. Yeah, I know. Gosh, he's a guy that Wesley Snipes almost killed on set.
Yeah, my problem with David Goyer is he's made his career by being the comic book guy and the nerd.
Yeah.
When he's not a comic book guy or a nerd or a geek.
Bad at all those things. Yeah.
And he's bad mouth geeks. In fact, right. I think when Man of Steel came out, he was like, "These fucking geeks don't know what they're talking about," and I'm like, no, they do.
Yeah.
You also wrote The Crow City of Angels, which is arguably one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's written a lot of those. Like he's got his own list of
for every Dark Knight. There's a Blade Trinity.
100%.
For not Chris Nolan, for David.
For David Goyer.
There are peaks, massive peaks, and massive troughs.
I like it's not even a valley; it's trough. That's correct.
No.
But so there's this. So the one thing that, of course, nobody will ever punch Heinlein in the balls as hard as they do with Starship Troopers. Like Starship Troopers takes everything, all of the jingoistic bullshit, because that book does take place in Argentina, and they're like, well, what if we just made these white people? Because you are jingoistic fuckface. We're just going to make these Argentinians white people because you're sort of doing that in your book, and we're going to make fun of it. And that whole movie knows what it is. That movie is in on its joke. It is fucking perfect. This movie isn't as much in on its own joke because it still does lean into the I'm going to show my boobs to distract them stuff that happens in the book.
Sure.
And like that weird overt sexism is running through this. But the hero of the movie, though, and not of the book, is Mary.
Yes.
I know what you're saying, Ria, that Sam has to go and I'm going to save Mary. But ultimately, she's the only smart person. She is using her boobs to use her brain. She's like, this guy's going to, this is, you know what I mean? She explains it out loud, right?
That's
I don't know. I've never used my boobs in that way ever. Outrageous.
Outrageous. But because she articulates it, right? She said, you know. And so it's so there's a lot of good there, but it's it is trying to make fun of it. Make fun of the Heinlein stuff because in the Heinlein book it's not there. So it's trying to walk that line between we don't want to piss off the hardcore Heinlein heads, but we also kind of want to make fun of it. Whereas Verhoeven's I don't care. I am going to totally make fun. You can hate this all you want. So
I'm going back to Holland.
Right, that's right. Don't worry, you guys. You'll never hear from me again. But so this movie tries really hard to be to have a strong, female protagonist, but it doesn't know how to do it. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, but I also feel like Donald Sutherland knew what movie he was in. Whereas maybe Eric Tall didn't know what movie he was in. Keith David 100% knows what movie he's in.
Oh, when Keith David turns evil at the end.
Oh my God!
You're like that's when you get like he's one of my favorite voice actors, one of my favorite actors, and like it made me feel like when I heard him say like you're really gonna piss me off. I was like, oh, it's Spawn. He's back being Spawn in the cartoon, the HBO cartoon again, because that's I'm sure that's a line from that. And I was just like, yeah, that's it. And with these aliens, like I like R. Lee Ermey, but in the Body Snatchers, when he's like, I am unemotional, I'm like, that's not what I want to see R. Lee Ermey do. I don't want to see him do unemotional. I want him to be screaming and shouting and spitting like the drill sergeant he is in Full Metal Jacket, what he's known for, primarily. But like with this alien, it's not that kind of we're unemotional, we must conform. It's a hive mind,
right?
Which it's it's kind of like it is one entity, and which is kind of why I don't really get why they have to do the little tendril communication thing. I know it's a young baby. I know that they've just given birth to a new one, and they have to communicate. But if it's a hive mind, why do they need to do the tendrily things with the mouths that they have? Not entirely sure.
Was they paid for that special effect?
Yeah, probably. Like and like there's the stuff I like about this. I like that they delve into the science of it and they explore and the xenobiology and all that sort of stuff, and that was interesting because Body Snatchers is again, like what I was saying about the weaknesses and strengths, like I love that they go into the science, they try and explain it, very briefly, very quickly, like, don't question it too much, next action scene, quick, we know we've just said this, but move on, quick, and they're like, oh, we'll inject it with the disease. It becomes very War of the Worlds at the end, where like, oh, we'll give it this brain problem and it'll die, but then they'll all die because they're a hive mind, so it's fine, don't worry about it, we've done it, we've won. But yeah, there was some moments where I'm like, wait a minute, wait, and then it's like, don't worry about it, it's fine, just look at this, look, guns, look at this thing. But there are some moments where I was like, Body Snatchers is like, don't worry about it, it's about the feeling, it's about the allegory, it's about the ominousness, but this one is like, no, it's about the action. Look, next sequence.
Well, and that's what's frustrating is it doesn't need to be, because there's this commentary on addiction, and so like Sam's character, when he connects with the slug, he has memories of it, and they kind of talk about this idea. Mary figures out that it's like triggering addiction centers in your brain when you have this on then you want it back. You're longing to have, like, having the slug off you see the first time and it's again who they decide, oh, the heroes can have the slug removed and it doesn't kill them, but these schlubs over here, if they take this slug off, it'll definitely die. They'll die from withdrawals. But there is this commentary on addiction, and addiction as disease, as addiction as like painful addiction, as a disease, as a communicable disease, because there is, and I don't remember when the first time this started to really, where people started to say, addiction isn't just, and I'm going to say this because this is how it was in America. Like, there was a moment when people said, oh, maybe addiction isn't just for poor brown people. Maybe addiction is actually a mental and physical disease that's in your genes. And so we better make sure we make that about white people. And so that is happening in this movie, whether it's commenting on that or it's like just trying to raise awareness of that or whatever. But like the idea of addiction as disease. And then you also have to think about, like, in 94, 93, 94, like, what is happening? Like, we still don't have AIDS under control at that point in time, right? And then, then there's crack epidemic, which is, we're coming on the back end of that. But now we're starting oxy, we're starting heroin, we're starting like all of the drug epidemics that are happening, that have continued to happen in our country, in my country, are, like all own goals. Like, these are all things that we could have done, just like the way that COVID spread through America. It's an own goal situation. Like, we could have done things to stop it, but we didn't. So that is here. There's a commentary on there. And, there's this smart woman who's telling everybody what to do and nobody's fucking listening again. And so she's like, what if I show my boobs? Then you'll listen. So again, like, it's not even subtext, it's there. So there is something that could be done here. But again, they kind of get then Goyer got involved and he had to Goyer it up. And he had to be like, what if we made Margot Robbie wear this really skimpy pants? Or what if we don't? What if we don't do that? What if we don't need to do that to tell the same fucking story? Oh, no, okay. We need to do that. So there is such an opportunity missed here. I do think there is, there's a there was a really interesting subtext.
This is definitely the Disney version of Body Snatchers. It's high energy, it's fast, it's frenetic, throw a lot of stuff at you. It is Hollywood Pictures, so that was owned by Disney. That's one of their.
So
this Ria, this could have been a Disney discussion. I don't think it would have been, but it could have been. And they even reference Pirates of the Caribbean, which two of the screenwriters would actually go on to write as well. So, of course, it had to be. But yeah, this is definitely a Disney-fied version because, like we've said, there's a lot of camp, there's a lot of humor. There's like, this guy just wants to fuck the alien. That the only actual joke in the film that Keith David delivers. This guy just wants to fuck it. And then, and I have to say, like you were saying, Donald Sutherland absolutely hamming it up when he goes to investigate the hive that is now destroyed. And he falls over and is like,
I loved it. I was like, dude.
Falls over.
No.
Things fall.
No
things fall out. Things fall out of the sky, and they think, "Oh no, he's been infected. One of them's gone on him." They check his body temperature because they realize they can do it because it raises the body temperature. And yeah, it's like, and he goes, "No, I'm fine." And then he walks out as quickly and as comically as he can without his cane.
I know.
It's like so obvious. He's like, don't mind, off I go. Like that sequence must be only about 30 seconds where he goes in, falls over, the things fall on him, they check him, and he is literally like power walking out. And people are like, and like he's never moved that fast in his life, but and it's just absolute like comedy gold, like don't mind me, like I'm just walking out, and then he gets into a helicopter. And have you guys seen The Hidden? This is kind of another kind of parasitic alien thing, like from 1987. No, it's really good. It's basically Body Snatchers meets The Terminator. Is how I would describe it. Really good. Kyle MacLachlan and various other actors. And it's about this alien, this kind of slug-like alien that goes into your mouth and possesses you.
Nice.
But it's living off the sensation, the psychic sensation and pleasure centers of a human. So it loves fast cars, it loves big guns, it loves, beautiful women, it loves heavy metal. So you can tell when this thing's been taken over, and again takes lots of damage, doesn't die. Really good, really fun film. I definitely recommend it if you get a chance to see it. If you've enjoyed Puppet Masters, because there's a lot of Heinlein's kind of ideas in there. But like this, I think this one's more like a symbiosis almost, less of a parasite. It's more like a, because it's making the host stronger, and they're becoming more human, the aliens, and again they're much more malevolent and actively like sadistic as opposed to the emotional aliens in the Body Snatchers. They're like I'm gonna make your son die. Look, I can turn off his heart. And then it's like I can fly a helicopter.
Right.
Whee! all that stuff. So
I love that
so
it immediately goes for the helicopter. It's like things like, do you know what I've always wanted to do? Be in a fucking helicopter. I was like, oh my God.
Let's do it. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of element there, which I quite enjoyed and kind of adds to the humor. We'll talk about the endings of both films because I'm not quite sold, I don't think, on either of the endings to these films. But they were fun.
They both ended. The credits rolled on both films.
They did do that. They managed to do that at the very least. Satisfactorily, maybe not. But yeah,
into this comedy, the comedy part of it. But I don't know that
it was supposed to be
right. I think comedy. Sutherland is like okay, and Keith David, like I feel like Donald and Keith were like, psst, come here.
We know what
film we're in, right?
Yeah, we know what film we're in.
Right,
we know what we're doing.
We know us. Well, and that's the thing. Yaphet Kotto though doesn't get to be funny. He just has to sit and be serious and look menacing.
He doesn't get much to do. I mean, this film is wall-to-wall character actors.
I know,
like wall-to-wall. Like you've got Scorpio in there from Dirty Harry, or the dad, or Come to Daddy in Hellraiser.
Richard Belzer more body horror. Here,
yeah, from Law and Order, is it?
Yeah. And he was a stand-up comic around this time. This is one of his first turns into acting before he, but he doesn't do much.
That makes sense.
He doesn't say much, right?
No, and he's like, you don't smoke anymore. And he's like, okay, I'm walking out.
Yeah,
very quickly walking out.
The same. So much in the actors' heads. I feel like they've been told to walk, and they literally just walk along, going.
And they do that weird because obviously Body Snatchers has the very famous like point and scream thing, and they're kind of doing something that's more like it's like a really sharp intake of breath, like like this, and it's like it's not quite the same, but I know what you're trying to do, and they just kind of like toddle towards the camera. Yeah, like it works for me. They're weird, and you know, and yeah, it's a bizarre film, but I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, like Will Patton's in there as a scientist.
What is
as
Will
well.
Patton doing though? Like he's trying to do like a weird like
eccentric scientist.
Yeah, but he's trying to be like Ash from Aliens. Like he's trying to do that whole sort of like I want the parasite to figure it all out. And you're like, is he supposed to be menacing or is he a good guy? It's like, and you're like, but not well enough for it to be interesting. Instead, I am like, does he just?
They're too busy. They're too the film feels like it's like every scene it's in, it's too busy thinking about the next scene.
Yeah,
like it's not letting you breathe or live in that moment. It's going like, oh, this is where we learn about the alien. Oh, it's it's symbiosis and all this, and then they're already looking towards Belzer being revealed as the alien.
I mean, he might as well have had like a big glowing thing over his head the whole time. Like as soon as
that's what I mean.
As soon as Belzer's on screen, it might as well have just been like an arrow pointing down like everywhere he walks around.
But this is what this film is not bothered about. Body Snatchers is bothered going, are they different? Are they changed? Are they pretending? Like this film does not give a fuck. It's like it's definitely him. Even when he's in the car and they're like, help him, and the kid goes through the windscreen.
Oh, I love that.
You know,
so much. I was like, I want to see that kid eat it, and he does. I'm like really into like kids getting run over and pushed out of helicopters.
Well, these films have got you, Ria.
They do.
That's why I like them so much.
If you want to see kids die, these films. This is what I like. This is it's weird sex stuff,
kids
and
die all the time. Kids die all the time.
True.
Yeah, just not enough.
Raisins and steaks.
Yeah,
Raisins and steaks.
Last of Us reference.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, kids do die all the time. Anyway, on that note, let us get into this comparison. So, Tony, as you've not done this before, I know you listen. I know Tonya doesn't, but I know you listen to every
I'm
one
not
of these
going to live that
podcasts.
down. Oh. She texted while we were talking too. Is she like, were you talking about me, you asshole?
You should. Yeah, she could feel her ears burning. But yes, so there are 5 categories. So we have writing, acting, music, cinematography, and direction. So you are a writer, Tony. So let's go with you first. What film did a better job with their script?
Oh, Body Snatchers. Because while there's definitely problems in the script, like the whole "she's 17, she's a minor." At least it had had 3 acts, and it followed that Carpenter. It was trying to, it was a love letter to Carpenter, even though obviously,
absolutely.
Keith David's in this one. That one is like saying, hey, let's do a slow first act. Let's set this scene. That's a very Carpenter thing, and people standing around talking for 30 minutes, and then you're like, gotcha, boom. So to me, it was just better. It was better written because it knew how to do something, as opposed to, I feel like maybe the Puppet Master script was just shot out of order. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe the script was okay, but because we don't know what the fuck is going on half the time. So that's me. Ria, what say you?
There were definitely a lot more writers on Puppet Masters.
Yeah,
but there was still a fair few on Body Snatchers as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ria, what do you think to the writing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, clearly Body Snatchers. Like, no offense, Puppet Masters. Actually, maybe offense.
Yeah.
But clearly Body Snatchers. And again, talking about that clip that you sent me, I do find it interesting. So Meg Tilly was talking about again how sort of like the script was a bit of a mess, and they were all allowed to sort of like come up with some lines and stuff like that, and she did that. And I think actually weirdly the script maybe being a bit messy and not being that great allowed for some freedom for some more realistic feeling scenes and lines and deliveries and stuff like that. So technically Body Snatchers, but with the caveats, I think the excellent actors helped bring that alive.
I have to agree with you both, so I'm going to conform. I think it's better paced. As much as I enjoy the pace of Puppet Masters, I thought it was more methodical and it was more focused on character and getting to know these characters. So when you did notice them turning or not turning or pretending to turn, you would know, or you could, or it would put you in a position where you could doubt, where you weren't entirely sure. Maybe they are, but maybe they're not. I think overall it just works. And again, the second time watching it flew by for me. The second time I watched it, it really does work. And again, you get to know the characters, you get to know it has a real sense of ominous kind of dread, which I like. And again, I think that we'll get into kind of the other aspects of that help that. But I think this one does that a lot better than Puppet Masters. So yeah, absolutely, I have to agree with you on that. So next one, this will be an interesting one. Acting, Ria, which film had the better acting?
Come on, Body Snatchers. Come on.
She's fighting this corner. Tony.
Puppet Masters has fun performances of people who know exactly what they're in and are having fun with it. And I appreciate that. But overall, better performances are in Body Snatchers. And that does come from the three we've talked about. And I just don't, I think Meg Tilly makes what could be a thankless role absolutely amazing. I know she's 24, but I think that's still really young for Gabrielle Anwar, and she carries this whole film. And I think what you pointed out with Forrest Whitaker, he could have made that role so cliched, and actually he's basically in two scenes and completely elevates it. Now, everybody else in the film, look, I'm not an actor. I would be a terrible actor. They're fine. I don't want to be.
So was I.
I don't want to be mean. They're fine. Can we remember them and their performances? Do they matter? No. However, I think
they're just pod people.
They're just pod people. Yeah.
I think there's more of that in Puppet Masters. I think there's more of can we remember who anybody is in Puppet Masters?
There are a lot of people in Puppet Masters. There's a lot of those character actors.
There's
a lot of there's that guy. I remember that thing.
But that's why, for me, I lean the other way for that reason. I agree. I think the three leads, and we keep calling him a lead. He's in it for 8 minutes. Forrest Whitaker is not a lead in Body Snatchers. He's just so good. He's just so good.
I just realised he plays a slightly, head case in Rogue One, and he has a parasitic alien.
He does. That's true. Yeah, he's nice. He's never bad. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He's I'm proud to know that, he exists as an American actor.
I will say his accent work on The Crying Game is not good. I'll be
fair.
honest.
No, that's fair. But he's in that movie.
But the acting is good.
Great in that movie, and he's great.
The accent is not good.
Right? No, but he's just always good. So he's in it for 8 minutes. So to me, the reason I lean to Puppet Masters is because I feel like all of these character actors, and I'm team character actor. I think that's a hard job. Some of my favorite actors: Keith David, John Hawkes, Judy Greer. These are some of my favorite all-time actors. They're the people who do the mucky work. And this Puppet Masters is not a great movie, but these are people who are professionals. Will Patton is having a ball. Keith David is, and again, this I blame, and this will come up in just a moment. It may be the direction, but I feel like these actors, as a collective, did more work. If you put them on this scale,
you've ensemble.
You've got these three people and a bunch of jank, and then you've got this big group who are all, except for I think the lead, Eric Tall, who's the lead. Everybody else around him helped. So I think you had one bad performance.
Don't worry, Tony. I'm not going to tag him in this.
Okay, yeah. And again, I couldn't do what he did. He just, and again, yeah, right. I mean, right. I would watch this movie again. I 100% will watch this film again. But yeah, so to me, I'm going to say, just because I think that the strength is in the cast, and you said it yourself. The fact that Ria wants to get a still of Keith David's face from this film says everything to me. And again, no, I agree with what you both said about Forrest Whitaker's, fidgetiness and brilliance, and it's boy, maybe we should have made him a bigger role in this film. But so that's why I'm going Puppet Masters. So Dan's got to break the tie.
That's I will say, Tony, that was a very good argument. I was swinging towards Puppet Masters until you started speaking. Then and I was like, I'm sorry, Body Snatchers. Body Snatchers. Sorry,
You've turned right
even
off
I'm
Puppet
confused.
Masters.
I pushed it right over. Yeah,
right off. But I will say, is any performance in that as iconic as Meg Tilly doing that speech and doing the scream?
Absolutely not.
Or again, like if you go and look at that trailer that they put out, it is all Forrest Whitaker. It is all Meg Tilly. There is barely anybody else in that trailer because it's so iconic. So, yeah, I agree. I think the ensemble is stronger, and I think the better actors do better with maybe the worst scripts, but we'll get to that. Well, we've
already done about script,
but yeah, we've already done script. I'm losing track now. Maybe I've been replaced. So... But yeah, I'm gonna have to side with Ria on this one because I think I will remember those performances. Puppet Masters, I won't remember. You know, as much as I enjoy Keith David's performance or Donald Sutherland's, I don't think it's going to stay in my memory quite as much as Forrest Whitaker or Meg Tilly's performance in this. Absolutely iconic, and again, just absolutely stealing every scene that they're in, even though they're barely, if you look at the runtime, they are barely in the film. But that will stick with me.
Sure.
And that's why I'm going to go with Body Snatchers on that one. So that's 2 to Body Snatchers. Next up, music. Tony, you are our mandatory music. So you're a music man yourself.
I went back and forth on this one. And the reason I'm going to lean towards Body Snatchers is I actually think because it's less busy. Like the music has a chance to do work in Body Snatchers, whereas Puppet Masters, the music is over noise all the time. There's so much special effects noise. Yeah, and hand running, as we just saw Dan do, like weird walking. It's almost like so I feel like they relied too much on like we can make these cool special effects sounds. And so like the effects crew, the sound design crew of Puppet Masters is probably better than the sound design crew of Body Snatchers. But if we're talking music, it's got to be Body Snatchers just because I could hear it. Like I remembered what it was. And again, the scene, I mean, we're not here to objectify you, Meg Tilly, but that scene, the music, the lighting, that whole scene when she walks out and the way that her performance is, but I think that whole thing just really worked. And I think because you see Gabrielle Anwar is doing so much face acting, they tie the music up with her tension or lack of tension or wherever. So I feel like I think there's some good stuff in Puppet Masters, but it's just harder to hear. You know, you pay attention because you know you're going to be asked. It's like, oh, there's some good stuff here, but you're shitting all over it. So, Ria nodded.
Ria.
Yeah, agreed. I don't really have much to add apart from... So I have that issue if there's too many noises, I can't differentiate them. So, if you're like in a restaurant or whatever and they've got music playing and there's people talking and then somebody comes up to take your order, I can't hear them because there's too much other noise going on. And that's how I felt watching Puppet Masters. I actually agree. I think there's a great point about the sound design, actually, the creature sound design, all of that sort of stuff, like the squeaks and all that. Lovely. Great. Fantastic. Lovely.
Lovely little alien man.
Yeah.
Lovely little things.
Whereas I think that stuff is probably worse in Body Snatchers, but that creeping underscore that's just there in like so many significant scenes that add to the tension, that add to feeling unsettled, just wins out. And that means I don't think Puppet Masters is without merit, but it's just chaotic. And I think it doesn't add to the way you're supposed to feel as a viewer, whereas with Body Snatchers it does.
Well, I think as a film, Puppet Masters is chaotic. I think in general, anyway.
That's what I like about it, though.
I know.
Yeah, that's that. And again, and I like the strings in it. I like the the ring, all that sort of stuff. And again, it highlights the tension they're under. They're like, fuck, we got to get it. Fuck, we got to stop it. Fuck, we got to do this. Fuck, got to do this, got to do that. And they're all rushing around constantly. And there is only a few moments of like, oh, we're allowed a night off. Let's go and have sex. Oh no, it's in the room.
Yeah,
it's attacking the cat. Oh no. I've took my top off, and you didn't notice. You didn't notice I had this huge hunch on my back for no reason. Just get everyone to wear. Don't get everyone naked. Just get everyone to wear tight t-shirts and shorts.
I also just absolutely love that. Like, there's a parasitic alien around. Just keep all your windows open.
Yeah.
I was like,
totally fine.
Why are your windows? I was like, you're so pretty and so dumb. I was like, you're so handsome. You've got a lovely face. Shame about the brains.
Yeah, that's it. Well, maybe he should have been replaced. Maybe if he joined the hive mind, then it would have all been sorted. So yes, I have to agree with you both. I also think there's restraint in not using the music in Body Snatchers as well, because that is off-putting. That's scary because it's like, I should be hearing music. Why am I not hearing music? Why am I just hearing the outdoors? Again, sound design and that sort of thing. The rustling of the leaves. There's something wrong here. There's something we don't hear. It's like in Puppet Masters, they go, there's no birds. Like there's something unnatural going on. And I think again, Puppet Masters, for all of its positives, I don't think it does those positives as effectively as Body Snatchers with that as well. So 100% agree with both of you.
And you made me think, actually, in Body Snatchers, there's that scene where there's just a baby crying, isn't there? She looks out the window into the neighbour and and the woman,
the baby knows there's something wrong.
Yeah, and the baby's just crying, and that's the only sound, just the baby crying.
There you go. Effective, very effective. Cinematography, Ria, what did you think had the better cinematography? Have we got a favourite?
Puppet. The thing is, I enjoyed Puppet Masters. I genuinely enjoyed it so much. But I would say the care and attention paid to something like cinematography was less than Body Snatchers. There you go. And I'm leaving it there.
There you go. Tony, cinematography.
Yeah, I think that again, it's because it's hard to shoot a chaotic action movie. It's like, honestly, like the puppet, like I openly love, I'm on record to say I love all 6 Sharknado films. I love them. But Puppet Masters has that feel, right? It's like, and they know that, I mean, except for Tara Reid, love her so much. Everybody knows what movie Sharknado is except her, including the cinematographers in that movie. They're like, what about this? And I just feel like, I again, and I'm going to say this now. It's obviously, we already know who's won but I'm going to say out loud, I will watch Puppet Masters before I watch Body Snatchers again. But Body Snatchers is just shot better. I mean, because you have to go inside, outside. You have to do bright light
shot
at night.
Yeah,
you have to do different things. I mean, I do think that end shot with the random, like, the fever dream ending with the helicopter and the voiceover and whatever that is. That's all.
What is that?
Neither, like the Puppet.
It wants to be Terminator 2.
Oh my god, so bad.
To be Terminator
Puppet
2.
Masters does such a better job on the helicopter fight than whatever this is. But I think overall, I definitely think, Body Snatchers was shot better. And again, I think it has something to do with maybe, like you said, they have Meg Tilly right there. They're like, what do you think? And she's like, what if we do this? It's kind of like, like, what would Star Wars be if Carrie Fisher weren't there to fix all the lines? What would this be maybe if a less actor were cast as Carol? Because, it's like, what if we do it this way? So even that opening scene, going back to Ria's, when we talked about the opening scene of the African-American man in the bathroom scene, the scaring of Marty right off the top, that is shot really well. It's menacing. You go from a bright outside, like desert, like and it's not a desert, but you know what I mean, like to this inside, this dark bathroom, and you see everything. And so I just think it's better. I think it's better.
And also with Body Snatchers, it benefits from the location. So, it actually is in quite a small location. It takes place on the military base. They don't go outside of that until the end. At the beginning, they're coming in, but randomly in the helicopter blowing things up. There's no way they would be given that job anyway. And I think it benefits from that, because with something like cinematography, production design, set design, you don't have that much to play with. But when you think about Puppet Masters, and actually when you think about the amount of different sets they have in Puppet Masters and what they had to build, it's actually incredible. Like, when you really think about it, so, you know when you're in a military setting, you know when you're in a home setting, you know when you're in the scientific setting, you know when you're in an alien setting, you know when you're in, the backwards of wherever the UFO landed. And so you can see why they spend more time thinking about that production design than the cinematography, because they're putting you in those places and visually telling you really strongly where people are in a very chaotic film. But I would say one of its strengths is you always know where you are, and I think that works really well, whereas it's so much smaller in Body Snatchers. So they have to think about the cinematography more. They have to think about how they're shooting it more.
Because it needs to be visually exciting. Puppet Masters is exciting because it's all go all of the time. But yeah, absolutely. I think you are both correct again. Last one, direction. What do we think, Tony?
Look, I don't. The only reason I'm going to, and this is like 50.1 and 49.9, right? That's how close it. The only reason I'm going Body Snatchers over Puppet Masters is because I feel like there's bad performances and then good performances in Body Snatchers. So that comes down to your casting director as much. Whereas in the Puppet Masters, the actors are all in different movies, and that has to be on the director. Like, right, the director needs to say, no, we're playing this for yucks. Why are you being so serious? Why did we cast this guy? Get me somebody different, right? I mean, like, Peter Jackson famously fired Stuart Copeland and brought in Vigo, right? Because he's like, you are so pretty. You are the wrong person to play the king. No, get me Vigo and his dong. I've seen that. Bring him in, and that's what happened, right? So sometimes you have to like make that choice because the acting is just going to be better. So I know I'm talking about direction, but I think you get these good performances in Body Snatchers because the director was smart enough to work with them and do the right work. Whereas in Puppet Masters, they're all seemingly in different movies. So to me, that while I think their performances are all more fun, I still am going to say Puppet Masters, I like the acting better, but I think the direction, because they're all doing different things. So I'm going to go, and I know it seems like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm going to go Body Snatchers for direction.
I think we all very much enjoyed both of these films. Again, no film is better than the other. We're just choosing one over in these very specific categories for fun. So I recommend both of these. Ria, your choice for direction.
Yeah, I think, let's be honest. None of these films are going to be or have been awarded anything for direction, right? They're both pretty solidly...
That's every film on this podcast.
Like middly directed, right?
Yeah.
The reason Body Snatchers wins for me is because Puppet Masters feels like it was directed by 5 different people. Like, what? Who knows what was happening day to day on set? Did they just give the actors their lines and tell them to run off and randomly have cameras there? By the way, I say that as a compliment because I enjoy it. Because I'm like, absolute madness.
Weirdly, like, I was looking at it's Stuart Orme, the director, and I was looking at his IMDb, and I went through his entire kind of filmography. Like, he's known for doing these little, like, English dramas. Like, he did Doc Martin. Like, the same director of Puppet Masters directed
all
episodes
of a sudden,
of Doc Martin.
I want to watch Doc Martin.
Is it this fast-paced?
It's just so bonkers, and we don't know what happened behind the scenes. We don't know whatever. But if we're going to look at it from which one is better directed, and again, and I am not a director, so I mean, no offense, it's not like it's award winning, but it is Body Snatchers, and I think we've got things like the DP is doing a lot of heavy lifting on Body Snatchers, whereas Puppet Masters, fuck knows what everybody is doing. Love it though.
Yeah, to me, see, that's the thing. It's Puppet Masters is all on those performances. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
And the director didn't have any control because all these people are doing different, amazing performances.
Do you think you would just go home at the end of every day and be like, Jesus Christ, I can't get any of them to do just the one thing
maybe
I want them to do. Do you think he was just like, oh, I just need one of them
I'm going to go back
one.
to making music videos and TV shows. Yeah.
It's like, I just need one of them to do one thing that I ask.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think somehow Stuart Orme has bottled Ria's chaotic energy and shook it up. Shook it up and put it and just poured it all over this film. And
I reckon he and I would have a fantastic time together, wouldn't we?
Oh, mate, I want you both to do the DVD commentary, Blu-ray commentary.
100%. He did. He directed he directed like 15 Phil Collins and Genesis videos.
Yeah,
and
he feels like looking at all of his other filmography. This seems like the outlier. This seems like the complete random. Like, I'm just going to do this alien action movie, and it's just going to be fast.
Well, and I wonder though, like you said, Ria said, we don't know what happened behind the set because like you think about Solo, which I like, and I know people shit on Solo, but you look at it, and the same thing, how much of that is still Lord and Miller's, and how much of it is Ron Howard's. Like you can see some of the difference, but Ron Howard, it's like you're like, how much did Ron Howard fix and edit, whatever. This movie definitely feels like you said, there's like everybody different person every day. They're like, give this to my 5-year-old and let him run around with the camera today. And you're like, that looks good. Yeah.
I think maybe he went, I've done all these very tame music videos for Genesis, and I've done, I'm going to do Doc Martin in the future. I think for this film, I'm just going to freebase cocaine entirely.
Fuck.
Just for this whole film, just going to absolutely just go to town on cocaine and see what comes out.
Love it. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for that, but I've also got a lot of respect for like, if he's just standing up and being like, this is the thing I'm currently directing.
Embrace it.
It's not my passion project. Let's embrace it. Let's do my job. I have a hell of a lot of respect for that. And like, if that's why, like, mate, you and I, buddies. Like, I'm here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't argue with anybody's decision. It is a full win all the way. Every single point goes to Body Snatchers. Ria is very happy.
But I will say again, ask me which one I want to watch again. It's going to be Puppet Masters.
Mine would be Body Snatchers, but that's because,
Again, you've got a deep love, deep-rooted reason for that.
Is it great? No.
But
do I love it? Yes. And is it good? Also, yes. And that's great.
Yeah.
So
it's
Puppet
great. Masters good? No. Do I enjoy it? Yes.
Would I 100% watch it again? Yes.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. Both for this.
Also, there are many beautiful people in Puppet Masters. As much as being mean about Sam, what a face. I'm not going to,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So we are very, very low on. We've run over as we knew we would. So I'm going to very quickly go. It's not nobody's fault. It just happens.
I know. I'm not mad.
Good thing.
Yeah.
He's not mad. Tony's fine. He's got the rest of the day ahead of him.
I do. I'm going to make dinner.
It's all downhill. Ria, it's all downhill. It's all downhill for Tony the rest of the day. This was his highlight.
This is a pretty good day. This is great. Yeah.
So before we finish, a few comments. Derek Esoteric, I was at work today. It's been a hard week at work for everybody. So, but he managed to grab him. I said, "What is your favorite alien parasite movie?" Surprisingly, he said Prometheus.
Wow.
Which I was like, really? Okay. And I said, any reason why? He said purely for Michael Fassbender, and I went, okay, I can see that. I can see why you would.
Who was
like it based
on fucking hell.
That is Alien Covenant, in fact. Sorry,
I said they're both shit melded into one.
They are both shit. But I did laugh in the cinema when everyone laughed when that line came up. I am Jack's musings. He says avoiding the two most obvious alien parasites. Best examples. I'm going to choose the Seti eel larvae that Khan uses to control Chekhov in The Wrath of Khan.
Wow,
that has stayed with me into adulthood, and as it freaked me out just as much as the creepy cyborg transformation in Superman 3. And then Andy has mentioned something that already Ria's mentioned today. The Faculty was a wild parasite movie. Not seen it in years, but vaguely remember being quite fond of it when it came out. And then I Am Jack's Musings has responded, going, great frigging flick from Bill Tannen from Back to the Future 2. And I'm also going to include I Am Jack's Musings letterbox reviews, because I think they are quite telling. And I think we share a lot of opinions. So he gave Body Snatchers 4 stars and a heart, which means like. He says, actually, arguably more akin to a Romero zombie movie than Kaufman's more celebrated 70s interpretation. Ferrara's 90s adaptation offers assured direction and a bleak tone, best exemplified by Anwar's Sarah Connor-alike voiceover that makes this body inversion well worth snatching up. Very good review.
Nice.
And then he went for 3.5 stars and a like for Puppet Masters. So he's chosen Body Snatchers as well over Puppet Masters. He said, this adaptation does not fuck around, and I am here for it.
It's true. It doesn't.
It does not. It does not. He says it's quick pace and constant sense of escalation and veritable who's who of recognizable character actors helps to keep any plot logic queries at bay, which I think we've all said today. So, guys, before we finish, Ria, where can everybody find all the wonderful things you're doing, Femon, and all the other wonderful stuff?
Yeah, there you go. Femon. Come and see me at Femon. Femon.show. That is our website.
Links in the show notes. Links in the show notes.
We talk about cool stuff from a feminist point of view, from the female gaze. It's all about women, women, women. It's the ladies, because it's ladies' night.
You're feeling right. Yes, it's ladies' night. Oh,
Absolutely.
what a night!
Oh, what a night!
Amazing.
And speaking of comparing films and The Lost Boys, we talked about Near Dark, and we said Near Dark is better than The Lost Boys.
Yeah, we did,
on that
didn't
particular
we?
podcast.
Yeah. Controversial.
So yeah,
it's not
controversial opinion. And again, very much love The Lost Boys. Don't get us wrong.
Yeah. So Dan was on that. Tony's on it all the time.
We're the boys who are on the Femon. We love you guys.
We're on it.
Yeah,
we're on it.
We're just a bunch of cool people talking about cool female shit. Femon.show on Instagram. It's Femon Collective, I believe. I can never remember the handle. Come and see
in the
me
show notes.
at
Don't
Ria
worry about
Carrogan on Instagram as well. It's good times.
Tony Farina.
I'm fine. I have a one-stop shop. If you just go to arfarina.com, you can get all the stuff. You can get podcasts I'm on, including guest spots on these shows. You guys, if you go to the podcast page, there's your shows have their own icons, and you can click on them, and you hear me on your shows on there. Yeah.
Lovely.
So, and then because my wife is awesome and makes my website look amazing.
I was going to say,
Yes, she is. She's awesome. Yeah. So just go to AR Farina. You can follow all the places I am there. I'm a writing fool. I'm working on book 4 of the Austin Chronicles as we speak.
Yes,
because we're talking. I wasn't writing and talking the whole time, but I've been working.
That would be rude.
That would be rude. So that's where I am. arfarina.com. All my good
comics lit as well.
Comics lit is coming out. Yeah, with lots of our good friends, our good Femon friend Tanya Todd, who doesn't listen to this show, so doesn't know that we're talking about her. She and I edited a collection of essays, so that is coming out in October. I've got a new novel coming out in October. I wrote a short story for Tanya's 52 Love collection, so that will come out.
Amazing.
I don't know when. So yeah, just busy.
Speaking of the wonderful Tanya Todd, in October, Banned Books Week is happening, and Tanya will be doing her Banned Books Week podcast again. It will be appearing on the Femon feed. It is essential listening and Comics in Motion, but I want the listeners.
I'll be there.
So it is essential listening.
I agree, 100%. Segue as well. Tanya's going to be doing Banned Movies Month with me instead of this next year, so that's going to be a wild ride as well, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm going to be joining Tanya for Banned Books, and maybe me and Ria will recommend the same film again. Who knows? Who knows? But you can find me at spiderdownandthesecretboards.com. Thank you all my patrons, including Ria and Tony and Tanya and all you other wonderful people that I won't list right now, but I list them on every other podcast, but we're tight for time. And also subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter that I very rarely write for, but support massively. But yes, thank you guys. Very quickly, I forgot to ask, are you believers in aliens?
Of course.
Just before we finish.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
how ridiculous would we be if we
Right.
think we're the only
I'm not-
people in
yeah.
the only thing in the
Come on.
entire universe?
Ye-
Please, come on.
And even people who are like, oh, Jesus and Gaudy McChristy pants, and I'm not here to shit on your faith or whatever, but like the Bible actually, like Ezekiel sees an alien life form. It's in so even in your Christian Bible book there,
got aliens.
Aliens. So yes, of course aliens. Duh. Math. Math says
I should have.
aliens.
Man, I should have done a religious film this month just to kind of throw it out there and just be like, whoa.
Yeah, well, you can just do
twist.
next Easter. Do a zombie movie.
Oh, good
See
point.
what you did there.
Vampire.
He has risen.
He has risen.
He has risen.
Exactly.
Risen into his UFO. Right. And on that note, thank you guys. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying Alien Month. We've got one more left. Cosmic Odyssey from DC Comics with Jax. I'm Jax Musing and Max Byrne. Check it out. It's going to be a hell of a ride. Bye.